My name is Angelika Karbulewicz. I am PhD clinical nutritionist, and if you are interested in a healthy nutrition and how you can increase your quality of life by healthy choices, food choices, please stay with me in this channel. The heart is a vital organ. It's a kind of pump which sets in motion the blood, which is circulating throughout our body. And it is also important because the heart, through the blood, is distributing oxygen and nutrients, but also hormones and so-called neurotransmitters throughout our body. The heart is also involved in the elimination of toxic metabolic products via circulating blood. I don't have to convince you that the heart is very important for each and every one of us, but which is the most important part, that the heart needs to work optimally. And this is particularly important because 1/3 of deaths worldwide is caused by cardiovascular diseases. So the question is, which nutrients are particularly important for the heart function and what nutrients should be incorporated to our daily basis. The first nutrient is allicin. Allicin is a very mysterious substance found in garlic. Allicin has such a power that it can even counteract the chemotherapy-induced damage to the heart. Allicin found in garlic reduces the release of cardiac tumor necrosis factor and attenuates the oxidative damage to the heart. Allicin is a decomposition product of biologically inactive allicin, and allicin is responsible for the characteristic garlic smell. And it is also worth to mention that allicin is the most potent sulfur substance found in garlic. The next important nutrient for our heart is lycopene. Lycopene, it is very important carotenoid. It is an orange to red pigment which protects our heart mainly by scavenging harmful free radicals and also protecting LDL lipoproteins from oxidation. Protection against oxidation is so important because the oxidation of the LDL lipoprotein leads to the formation of foam cells, and in turn it causes that the blood vessel walls are less flexible and also thickened. Lycopene is mainly presented in tomatoes, but we can also find lycopene in peppers and watermelon. And which is also very important, that the preparations from the tomatoes are much more bioactive than the tomatoes raw itself. And when the lycopene is consumed regularly, it is very efficient when it comes to the reduction of the oxidation in the myocardium, and thus it is a very important cardioprotective shield. And the next very important nutrient for our heart is dietary fiber. The higher intake of the dietary fiber, the lower risk of cardiovascular disease. An increase in dietary fiber intake of 10 grams is associated with an 8% decrease in the risk of cardiac incidences and also in 24% decrease in the risk of death from cardiovascular causes. And how to ensure adequate amount of dietary fiber on a daily basis? It is sufficient to eat 400 grams of vegetables and fruits daily. And that kind of behavior enables us to eat not only the efficient and sufficient amount of dietary fiber, but also enables us to eat cardioprotective polyphenols. And it is also important to eat whole grains. For example, swapping wheat bread to whole grain bread and also eating oatmeal, as well as flaxseed, sesame seeds, almonds and nuts. It is also very important to ingest omega-3 fatty acids. The effects of those fatty acids on the heart is very well known. For example, this omega-3 fatty acids enables the stabilization of the atherosclerotic plaque. It also poses some anticoagulant effects, as well as the lowering of triglycerides level, and also anti-inflammatory and anti-arrhythmic effects. It is also important to eat not only plant origin of the omega-3 fatty acids, for example, flaxseed oil, chia seeds or walnuts, but also to incorporate on a daily basis, like animal sources omega-3 fatty acids. It means DHA and EPA, and where we can find it, of course, in fish oil, but also in fatty fish from the sea, for example, salmon or herring. And the next important nutrient for our heart is coenzyme Q10. Why this is so important for our organism? And of course, we have some internal synthesis of these nutrients, but unfortunately, with the age, the internal synthesis of these nutrients is declining. And why coenzyme Q10 is so important for our health? It is very important because coenzyme Q10 is very important for the processes in our mitochondria. It is causing that the free radicals are expelled from our organism, and also it takes part in the stabilization and prevention of the lipid peroxidation, as well as it prevents our proteins and DNA from the damage. It is also important that coenzyme Q10 takes part in the regeneration of tocopherol and thus influences the stabilization of the cell membranes. And the question is where we can find coenzyme Q10 naturally in our food. So coenzyme Q10 is present, for example, in beef, in liver, also in herring, trout, and in smaller quantities in black currants, peas, cauliflower, and natural yogurt. And of course, sometimes additional supplementation of our diet with coenzyme Q10 is needed. For example, for the people with cardiovascular disease and also for elderly. And of course, let's not to forget about selenium and zinc. Those nutrients are very important because they prevent mitochondrial dysfunction and also they prevent free radicals damage. Serum selenium levels below 100 micrograms per liter is associated with poorer physical activity, quality of life, and also with a worse prognosis in patients with heart failure. Where we can find selenium naturally in food, for example in eggs, fish, whole grains, in garlic, and also in Brazil nuts. The zinc is also very important for the heart, but unfortunately, the concentration of zinc in the body is decreasing with the age, and thus it affects the increased risk of cardiovascular disease development. And where we can find the zinc when it comes to natural food? And of course, the sources of the zinc of the higher bioavailability is animal source. For example, meat, fish, seafood, and eggs. The absorption rate there of the zinc is around 20 to 40%. And in comparison, the zinc from the plant product has a lower bioavailability, approximately 10 to 15%, but it is still very good to incorporate those food products in our daily diet. For example, wholemeal rye flour, nuts and seeds like walnuts, also legumes like, for example, beans and lentils, and to a lesser extent, green leafy vegetables and fruits. Very important nutrient for our heart is also nitric oxide. This is a very special compound because it has vasodilatory effect. What does it mean? It means that thanks to this substance our vessels are dilated and the flow of the blood is much more better and facilitated. And thus, for example, the supply of our tissues with oxygen and nutrients is much better. And of course, the nitric oxide also reduces and lowers the blood pressure. Nitric oxide is formed in our body from nitrates, but how to obtain nitrates? It is very easy because it is sufficient to eat food products which contain nitrates, like for example beetroot, including beetroot juice, but also green leafy vegetables like celery, lettuce, rocket or spinach. Significant amounts of nitrites are also found in endive, in leeks, parsley and kohlrabi. As you can see, many nutrients are important for our heart. For example, dietary fiber, lycopene, Q10 and also zinc and selenium are very important to maintain our pump, which is, our heart, in a very good state. For further information about healthy nutrition, about healthy nutritional tips, please stay with my channel. See you in the next episode.